Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us of our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. 6:36. Welcome everybody to the regular meeting of the board. It's nice to actually see faces here. Go ahead, Chris.
Archer?
Yes.
Carpenter?
Yeah.
McElroy?
Yes.
Stunsbury?
Yes.
McKee?
Yes. Moving on to public participation, Mr. Leffingwell.
Yeah, well, again, I'd echo what Mr. McKee said. It's great to have people here and actually have people here and see their face. So it's great. Appreciate it. I had to start wearing makeup again since I couldn't wear my mask anymore. So it's all great to see. We have a pretty full agenda, but starting off, we have a public hearing as required by federal law in regards to how we utilize federal funds to support our special needs program. I'm going to turn it over to three folks, Kathy Williams, Chrissy Miller, and Marcy Murphy.
Good evening. Thanks for coming. Mr. Leffingwell shared. The purpose of this meeting is to discuss our federal IDEA monies and provide you with an opportunity to provide some input. IDEA assists in paying costs for providing education with our students with disabilities, our special education and related services for those students. So last year, we received $203,037.04. So the majority of this money went to pay for salaries and benefits. When I say salaries, that's support service salaries, secretarial support work, government and admin salaries, and then instructional salaries. And when I say salaries, it was a portion of the salary, so $188,000 roughly for that. And then about $8,700 for curriculum. With special education, we have some unique curriculums for some of our students, and that requires us to spend some dollars for that. And then also we provide speech therapy and consultant services for our students staff, and that came out to $6,000. So then $203,000.
Each year we receive feedback, or this is the knowledge of how it's been passed, or just the feedback of any suggestions for the future. So this is where the public participation, of course, is there.
Chrissy, she has a double role in the district. She's our school site and our special ed director, school aid, and preschool.
Okay, I have something. I am Kayla, and I have a daughter who's here. She's in preschool, and Sydney has autism. So I would like to read a poem to everyone just to kind of set the tone and get your mind thinking about our kids with disabilities in the district. It's called Welcome to Holland. I am often asked to describe the experience of raising a child with a disability, to try to help people who have not shared that unique experience to understand it, to imagine how it would feel. It's like this. When you're going to have a baby, it's like planning a fabulous vacation trip to Italy. You buy a bunch of guidebooks, you make wonderful plans, the Colosseum, the Michelangelo David, the gondolas in Venice. You may learn some handy phrases in Italian. It's all very exciting. After months of eager anticipation, the day finally arrives. You pack your bags and off you go. Several hours later, the plane lands. The stewardess comes in and says, "Welcome to Holland." Holland, you say? What do you mean Holland? I signed up for Italy. I'm supposed to be in Italy. All my life, I've dreamed of going to Italy. But there's a change in the flight plan. They've landed in Holland, and there you must stay. The important thing is they haven't taken you to a horrible, disgusting, filthy place full of pestilence, famine, and disease. It's just a different place. So you must go and buy new guidebooks, and you must learn a whole new language, and you meet a whole new group of people you would never have met. It's just a different place. It's slower paced than Italy, less flashy than Italy, but after you've been there for a while and you catch your breath, you look around, and you begin to notice that Holland has windmills, and Holland has tulips. Holland even has Rembrandts. But everyone you know is busy coming and going from Italy, and they're all bragging about what a wonderful time they had there. And for the rest of your life, you will say, yes, that's where I was supposed to go. That's what I planned. And the pain will never ever go away because the loss of a dream is very significant. But if you spend your life mourning the fact that you didn't go to Italy, you'll never be free to enjoy the very special, very lovely things about Holland. So, with that being said, my pitch, I guess, to the school is think about these kids and think about what we could bring to Holland. We're already flashy, we're already shiny, we already have so much here. We provide them with support services, but let's provide them with applied behavioral analysis therapy. Does anyone know what ABA therapy is? Yeah, okay. So approximately, this is according to data from 2016, approximately 1 in 54 kids in the United States of America are getting diagnosed with autism. That is an astronomical number at this point. So ABA therapy can not only help the kids with autism in our district, they can help children that deal with home situations of domestic violence, sexual abuse, Down syndrome, any sort of trauma. They can assist these kids with that. And I think the number where we have 126 kids in the district with special needs. So if we brought applied behavior analysis therapy to Shenandoah and offered it to our students, for an ABA therapist, you're looking at around $60,000 plus the benefits to that therapist. If you get an RBT, which is someone that can carry out the therapist and report back to the ABA therapist, you're looking at around $35,000 plus salary, plus benefits for that person. So I think it's something that Shenandoah could really benefit from and offer our kids. There are several schools around us in Monroe County and Belmont County that have in-school therapy. And I would just like to educate the special needs parents within the district if they don't know what it is or how it can benefit their child. I'm sure there's plenty of people in this room that can help with that. And they can also help with the teachers that teach the kids in the classroom. They can address the behaviors and get a better education for the child. They can also help the aides that work with these children. Okay, this behavior is starting. How do I get this child calmed back down? How do I make it safe for them? It just makes it a better experience for everyone, from the teacher to the child and the community involved.
So I want to acknowledge that. First of all, thank you. We appreciate it. And I guess without sounding defensive, we absolutely do whatever we would need to do for what's best for that kid. And we really, truly respect the IEP process and the decisions of that team. And we do have experience as a district with ABA therapy. And several years ago, we were under contract for several years. And we did that for all the reasons that you indicated. We had a great experience. As a former special education teacher, I used ABA therapy before it actually had a title. And so we really see the value of really coaching our staff to be able to utilize that, what the behavior is, the observation, the frequency, interventions, response to said intervention. All that to us is really called good teaching. So we actually did enter into a contract for a couple of years. And if it's time to do that again, that's what the IEP team believes is best to meet that child where they are, we're going to do it. So I don't think it's a fight. I don't think it's a debate. We've seen the value long before anybody came to tell us that it was necessary. And we have had that in our district for our staff should be very familiar with that. So we appreciate it.
It's very much about what each student needs as far as strategies and services that is tailored to each child.
Any other?
Yeah. a substitute teacher. They stick you in a room. I had a child I worked with last year. Special needs. Great kid. But his mother moved into this district. So he came here. And I keep in touch with him daily. Because he was my history with us. But it's night and day with that kid. What you've done with him is phenomenal. I just like to love you for that because what you do here is generous. So I thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Okay. Is that all the public participation?
That's it. So
All right, move on to the administrative stuff.
well, we're fortunate. Got a couple old guys back there in the back, but one face is familiar, and the other guy, you might remember him. What year was it, Mr. Ute, that you started work here?
Mr. Roman just showed me 1990, and I think it was 89, but in 1990, she took pictures of the program and pointed out, I really kept my figure. and he's absolutely right.
So Doug was stopping by to address our board, and I thought it was a unique situation that Mr. Ullman just hired Mr. Ute way back when. And then as a board member with the Ohio High School Athletic Association, I was just part of hiring Mr. Ute as our executive director. So welcome back.
Local. Wonderful to the youth. Share that. It's not very often, if you don't mind, I'm going to go off script just for a second here. It's not very often that somebody who did 30 plus years in education gets an opportunity to share appreciation with the person who hired me first. A young man from 2 hours away in Richland County, drove here, got off the interstate, came, and as I'm driving up here, trying to go to the school's got to be around the next one. And, thinking to myself, I'm not coming down here. I'm going 2 hours away from my mom and family, and those type of things. And then meeting Don there, by the time I got back to Clear Fork High School, where I'm from, and running open gym, the principal came in and said, hey, you got to get to the phone. This guy's going off your top. And Don, I'm so appreciative of the opportunity that you gave. And I'll share with that. Taught down in room 112, typing and everything else business-wise down there. And so within a week, I was 8th grade basketball coach, helping Dan Sweetman as a volunteer assistant. I'm not done. Assistant football coach with Mark B. Withrow, who all you folks know. And then head baseball. And I remember the first time I met the superintendent, Dan, it was right out in front of that auditorium. And Mr. Ullman introduced me to the superintendent on teacher work day. And I remember him saying, I need an assistant AD. I said, what's that do? He said, you got to do the junior high. Do it? That's why I asked you. That's why I said that. And so I had 4 supplementals and plugging away and mowed the baseball field and just so thankful of what Shenandoah did for me and springboarded me into a career. And I would tell you this, I left here to become a head basketball coach 2 years after I was here. I didn't leave here because I didn't like the area, I didn't like the people, or I didn't like the kids, or didn't like the school. I love teaching for Don. I love the staff here. I love the kids. I love the community. But as history will show you, that was a smart move for me because Dan Sweetman stayed another 20 years after that. And I never would have lasted that long. So, Don, again, I can't thank you enough for all you've done for me. And I say this, I have 4 kids that play sports and stuff. And in schools, it's easy to do stuff for kids when they're 15. But what's important for me is what are they going to do for you when you're 30 or 40 or something that way. And I've always felt like Don's been in my corner every move I've made. And so just really happy to be back here, to have the opportunity to do that before I talk about Dan for a few minutes. My wife and I have stayed close with Jeff and Marcia Carpenter. Anybody know those guys up here? I heard the names up here and I was like, man, I'm sure that you probably had Mr. Ullman as a principal. So that way. And last summer, we stopped on our way back from vacation and spent a few hours with them. Jenna brought me out here to the campus. And it just, and I noticed this today coming back from, I was in Meadowbrook, St. Clairsville. This was, so driving up from Barnesville this way, I was reminded of two things. How beautiful it is in this area, and how sick I used to get on the bus. Drive around. But when you come around that corner there, this property is so presentable and beautiful, and I appreciate what you guys have done here that way. And I spent about 33 years. I was a teacher, coach, and athletic director, coach, high school principal. In the last 20 years, I was a school superintendent. The last 11 I spent in Newark. And I was actually scheduled to be the deputy director of BASA starting January 1st, and then I had a conversation with Mr. Leffingwell this summer, and ended up at the Ohio High School Athletic Association.
Can't even take a worse job for less money.
Very rewarding job. Less money's true. So I wanted to drive down here tonight for a couple things. Number one, I wanted to thank the board and the district for Dan's time on our state board. And I think it's amazing between Don Ullman and Dan Leffingwell. You have over 30 years of representation on the district athletic boards in the state of Ohio. That's no easy thing to do. But I think it's neat for a district like Shenandoah to have that representation out there. And so thank you for Dan's time. I knew Dan a little bit before this past year, but I know a lot of it now. And what I knew about Dan, and I would tell you this, as a active member of the Buckeye Association of School Administrators, and 2 years ago I was the president of that organization, and I will tell you that Dan Leffingwell is considered by many, myself included, as one of the top 3 superintendents in the state by that area. You talk about Southeastern Ohio, you talk about what's Noble Local doing, or what is Noble Local doing. I've heard Marcy present. Dan surrounded himself by a great staff here, and that do well in the state and representing this district, and not just this district, this area. From that, I considered Newark one of the top STEM schools, Central Ohio, and that's where Shenandoah caught my eye. And obviously, that's where I started teaching. But then I started finding out what you're doing here in the district for your kids. And getting to know Dan, he's very much into, he's not satisfied till every single child in this district has the best opportunity they can have. I love that poem you read. I like Dan's response to that, because that's Dan. Every child in this district, he cares about. And so just appreciate his leadership from a school perspective. And I'd do anything you could to keep hold of that guy. And I know you are. He's very happy here. But again, his statewide leadership education is just outstanding for this district. So I did want to take a few minutes, Dan, if you could just come up here then and present Dan with a plaque for his. Dan served as our board president last year and very active on our board this past year. And as you know, this was a very difficult year for schools to provide an education for children. And then what Dan and I both see eye to eye on and see the value of what athletics, and I get an opportunity to talk to the lieutenant governor about once every 2 weeks and share with the Ohio Athletic Association what it does. And I always share, not just athletics, let's talk about fine arts, let's talk about life after 3 o'clock. How important it is for children, particularly during this virus time, to be around good folks in our schools. And then as the year went on, I realized it's not just good for our children's mental health. It's been great for their families' mental health. To go to ball games and have something to talk about. You guys probably talk about how to stop that boy kid down in Colville. And you forgot about the virus for a few minutes. I hear that kid might make you forget about that for a little bit. Right, Justin? what I hear. But and anyhow, or in any fact of the matter is, what we did at the Ohio Athletic Association this year, step out on a branch, flimsy a lot of times during the year. But Dan, Dan helped us provide that leadership, and importance to our governor and lieutenant governor about kids being active and playing and what it meant for their mental health and those type of things. And so, you know, you think about Dan Leffingwell, what I think about, he's a very intelligent guy, knows how to get his point across, and battles for kids. And I think that third one is evident in this district and in the state. So Dan, can't thank you enough for your leadership and all you do. And oh, is it a contract here? I would ask you for $100 instead of $50 to come back. No, I didn't know that. But, you know, this is just such an impressive place. And I should before I walked away. And believe me, I did 20 years of board meetings. You guys are probably saying, get out of here, we don't care. Because I'm going to leave after I'm done. You guys
We're going to discuss 5-year course.
But, yeah, and I've seen your financials. You'll be able to. That won't be a hard discussion. But in any event, thank you as board members for what you do. I always told our boards, I was fortunate to have 24 board members just from 2 schools, 9 years of Marion Elgin and 11 Newark. And had great board members. I used to tell them it's the toughest job in the district by far. And this year, wow. And so thank you guys for your leadership and work. Appreciate it.
Now, you're not getting out of here because let me tell you something. We were looking for an executive director at the same time. That's a whole nother story. At the same time the pandemic hit, and I obviously brought up, we need to call Doug Ute. I did not know that he was going to be the next pass. That's like the best, that's the cushiest job in the country. I mean, my gosh, he's good. They're going to pay Max. I said, I'm sure there's no way in the world he's that dumb to do that. No, but the serious point is that's how much you love kids, and you see the importance of all those things that were mentioned in that poem. And like without that, some kids have no connection to school, and you jumped into the fire to try to make a difference. And I tell you what, it's been a world of difference. And I'm glad 3 years later that I can go to sleep and know it's in good hands. So thank you. And
this is a presentation for you. You don't need
it's all good. I'm much more comfortable with somebody else.
Thank you guys. Appreciate it.
Hey, check's in the mail, brother.
Glad to see you. Glad to see Justin being a good leader here too, because when I was here, he would think he might have been sophomore. I coached quarterbacks and receivers and defensive backs, and Justin was in there. Good kid. Glad to see you. Good leader.
Doug, thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks for your time.
So most folks know we're engaged in a couple projects. We're in the final renovation stage of the high school, which we call Phase 4. And we're also just concluding a process, design build process to begin design and build of the Green Acres Farm Complex. And so with us tonight, I know the board, it's a familiar face, is Josh Predovich from SHP Design. And then online is Marty Snode, also a Shenandoah grad who will be leading us on behalf of Hummel Construction. So I'll turn it over to you, Josh.
Excellent, thank you. Thanks for allowing me to give a presentation to you tonight and give you an update on where we are. My focus tonight is more on the Ag Ed facility rather than Phase 4. Just a few quick words about Phase 4. We're moving forward at a really good pace. 3D construction under Energy Optimizers is doing a really nice job. Locker rooms are coming along. You know, it's great to be able to get an early start. They've already got most of the demo work done, and they're already starting to put plumbing back in and get things stuffed up. So I think that was a really good decision. So tonight, what I'd like to do is I'm going to give you an update. Trim down, Dad. Can you click on the PDF? Yep, still coming up. Oh, there we go. Okay.
Was it you or me? I don't know.
Yeah, you take it down to like 90%. It just needs to be slightly less than that overall. You'll remember this little bit of an update on the storage schedule that we put together originally. We were in planning and development basically through fall of last year and into spring of this year. And then since then, we've actually gone through the process for selecting criteria architect. We've issued the design build RFQs and RFPs, of which I'm going to present to you tonight. And so we're at the next step, which is really selecting the design build firm after going through this process. And so there have been a couple of dates that have shifted on us a little bit. Our construction start date, we were hoping to get started potentially in June. I think we're probably a few weeks off of that, so we're probably in the July timeframe. And also in going through this process, obviously construction and the construction world has changed a lot in the last 6 months. Not only from a competitive cost standpoint, but also just from a material availability standpoint. It's just not as simple to get construction materials today as it has been. And so at the advice of some of the shortlisted firms that we pulled together for the design build, we started to take a look at the potential of moving from sort of that October, November completion date into December to give them more time to get materials. And so I'll talk to you a little bit about how that sort of came about with our shortlisted firms. So the process that we've gone through on this is a design build selection process where we effectively sent out requests for qualifications. And so that was an open process. We advertised in the newspaper and asked anybody that was interested to go ahead and send qualifications in. And then from there, we took those qualifications and went through a shortlisting and scoring process. And so your team was involved in going through that process. From there, we developed a short list and we shortlisted 4 companies. We've received 7 qualifications, shortlisted down to 4. And then just last week, we interviewed those 4 companies and reviewed their proposals with them over the course of an afternoon. And then from there, our next steps would be to go ahead and basically recognize the shortlisted firm that won, and then issue a notice to proceed. And then from there, I think our first steps would be to start to look at some site tours for some comparable building types so that your team basically can feel confident with the type of building that we may be looking at for the barn. So you can kind of see the dates of how that's all happened. Those dates seem like a long period of time when you start looking over 6 weeks, but it goes pretty quickly when we get the information in, and there's a lot of review that has to happen in that time frame. Again, this is all being done under House Bill 153. And so again, what we completed, the criteria architects, the criteria documents, qualifications, the shortlisting of the companies, and then the final piece, which was ranking and selecting the design builder. And the reason that we did all this, again, was to make sure that we could match up the building type and the contractor so that we knew that whoever we selected for this final piece of the process would have a good relationship with any of the metal building types that they might represent. And each one of the companies that came in gave us some really good suggestions, and I'm going to share a little bit of that with you. This was the RFQ scoring. Just very quickly, we got 7 in. We shortlisted 4, so those were the 4 companies. It's 3D Construction, Hummel Construction, Robertson Construction Services, and Wolf Creek Contracting. And so all of this process obviously was open book and it's public. And so all this information is available for public consumption. The intent was that this is a very open process, and anybody that wants to see these records is more than welcome to see them. From there, we sent basically each of our shortlisted firms a request for proposals, and I'll describe a little bit about what the information was in that. But effectively, the proposals were due back on May 12th, and so we brought each one of the contractors in, the design builders in for about an hour. Reviewed the proposal with them, allowed them to make a presentation, did Q&A, and then we scored right there during after their interviews, basically. And so the outcome of that scoring, and I'm going to go through just very quickly how the proposal scoring worked. But for each one of the companies, there was a 2-part component to the proposal. There was their qualifications, which was 60% of their overall score, and then there was the pricing that they put together, which was basically the soft cost pricing. And so for each of the companies, you can see where their scoring came in, and you can see actually that their scoring was relatively tight, with one exception being Hummel Construction, which really came out on top. Their scoring was head and shoulders above the other companies. You can see they're almost 99.2. Everybody else was sort of in that 86, 88, 89 range. And so the way that scoring worked, there was a two-part page basically that we put together. The first part being what your team put together, which was going through and actually scoring each of the teams based on reviewing their proposal and their interview. And so you can see each of these different categories, but basically the big headings were understanding the project objectives and understanding the project implementation. And again, I would say, this is Hummel's scoring. You can see that they did really well in all categories. And so again, that's what really led to them being sort of the best value selection, if you will. And so then the last piece to all that is we asked the contractors to put together basically all of their costs, not only the hard cost, and I'll talk about that a little bit, but not only the hard cost of doing the projects, but also how much were they charging you to do the design work, how much are they charging you during the construction. They're ultimately will be putting together a gross maximum price. That's later. That's after we actually go through the design process. And then there was some additional information that we asked them to rank. And so each of the teams developed these numbers. And then the scoring was weighted again. I mentioned that the qualifications was 60% of the overall. This pricing piece was 40%. And you can see where Hummel came out. So the key components to the RFP, besides all that scoring and costing, we did ask each of the teams to put together a preliminary project estimate. I can tell you they ranged quite a bit. We saw a pretty wide range of the preliminary project estimate, but each team was asked to put together an itemized summary and then also to work with us on possible multiple cost savings approaches. And I can tell you that some of the teams really came with some good ideas, and some of the teams that weren't so strong maybe in that category. Additionally, two other things that we requested was value-added suggestions. So any cost savings, value-added suggestions, specific procurement methods, anything that could potentially benefit the project and benefit you and make your budget stretch further. And then lastly, the proposed schedule. And I can tell you this is really where I felt like Hummel was probably head and shoulders above everybody else. I came in with 3 strategies and 3 different schedules and how they would be impacted based on those different strategies. So each of these were key components, and that's what ultimately led to the overall score. The proposal pricing, I mentioned we saw a pretty wide range. So we published a construction estimate. So there was a hard construction estimate of just under $1.2 million and our total project budget of 1.4. Okay, I think I presented this back to you probably back in November. So those numbers are what the contractors were presented with, the design builders. And you can see, 3D's construction came in at about almost 2.4. Hummel came in at about 1.3. Robertson at about 2 million, and Wolf Creek at about 1.2. You can see the range is all over the place. And some of that had to do with the strategy of what they came in with. If they came in and said, we're going to do all this pre-engineered building, that was a higher cost, obviously, than some of the suggestions from some of the design builders, which was a lot of recommendations about looking at doing just a wood frame classroom building, which I think ultimately, as we look through that, is probably a good suggestion, given the climate right now, how long it's taking to get that steel for those pre-engineered buildings. And then Hummel came in with 3 suggestions basically for how to do the barn. Potentially doing it as a wood frame building, doing it as something called a K building, which I'll show you an example of, or doing it as pre-engineered metal building. So again, I really felt like they understood the spirit of what we were asking to do as part of the RFP process. The great thing about this process, and then hopefully Dan and Kevin can talk a little bit about the sort of being involved in this, because it's an interview process, you're basically asking for these folks to come in and give you good suggestions, right? Because they want to get to work and you want to see some good ideas. And so each of the teams presented some different strategies, and it was different focus for each one. Hummel focused a lot on the schedule and the construction type. Some of the other design builders focused in on really showing us what floor plans would look like at the buildings, how alternately they could sit on the site slightly differently, that kind of stuff. So this was the site plan that was included in the RFPs, which was a suggestion to the design builders. Remember, I presented to you guys back in the fall that we needed to give them enough information to explain to them what our criteria were, where our basis is, and then allow them to go from there. And so, again, the strategy was a loop drive with a connection, parking lots at least for 30 spaces, classroom building, barn building, and then just a real simple layout of how the classroom building could potentially lay out. And then also the potential for future development if ultimately this this campus starts to expand, and we want to look at different barn buildings or storage buildings out there. And so first up, 3D Construction, who was teamed up with Anthony Bumgarden. They really focused in on presenting some floor plans and some really interesting ideas for how the buildings could lay out. Just as a reminder, obviously 3D did our addition, our weight room addition, was a general contractor for that under Energy Optimizers. And so they really focused in on trying to make sure that they got the criteria right, which I appreciated. It was a very detailed presentation. And I think, there's some good information there that we will carry forward. Again, and that's part of the benefit of this is, again, you get to take some of the best ideas and work with one of your design builders. The Robertson and the BSHM group came in. They gave us a couple of really interesting suggestions. One of the things that they were very concerned about was our loop drive crosses what we believe to be a county ditch. And so they were concerned about some potentials of the approval process of that if EPA gets involved. And so their suggestions were centered around the possibility of not potentially coming out onto Scenic Lake Road on this trajectory, but maybe potentially looking at going up the hill and then using some of the soil to offset what we know needs to be building up the classroom building and building up the barn. And so they came up with an interesting site layout, again, thought about how future development might work. So I felt like that was an interesting suggestion and one that we definitely need to review as a team moving forward. Additionally, they also came in with some good floor plan information, again, with some strategies of how that building could potentially lay out. This is the classroom building. They also have one for the barn building. And so, again, one of their suggestions, and we heard this time and time again, was the classroom building being wood frame. Because everybody agreed that that from a strategy is probably going to be the best from a scheduling standpoint and a cost standpoint. So, all done, Kevin, you want me?
Let's tell that floor plan a little bit.
Yep. There's some good things with it. There's some other things that don't work. Right?
Oh, yeah.
That's part of the design, right? And that would be the next steps, right? Is we're working with your design builder to develop that floor plan even further. Next up was Wolf Creek. They were teamed up with V2A Architects. Came up with a really interesting strategy. Their focus was really about the barn and the classroom building being one facility. This is something we kicked the tires on when we were developing the criteria. I think it's definitely a question that we should ask once again, just to think about. There are some good things about this and some bad things about it. Ultimately, muddy boots and coming through a mud room, that's great. Muddy boots coming into the hallway and taking it into the classroom. Right? So there are some things about this I think were good suggestions. They had a very simplified site layout, which I liked. I thought they were using, made really good use of the site, got the parking spaces in. I think it's definitely a site development strategy that you can take forward and really think about. And so lastly, Hummel Construction was teamed up with Brandsetter Carroll as their architects in their design build relationship. Hummel actually didn't present any site plans or present any floor plans, which was an interesting strategy. I think, I know Marty's on the call, or on the Zoom here. I think their focus was really about, how are you going to build these things, and what's that schedule look like, and how's that budget work. And so I think they spent most of their time sort of focusing in on what's the right type of construction and what's going to work best with your schedule, what's going to work best with your budget. And so their first construction suggestion, if you will, was to do the classroom building and the barn building, just conventional wood frame. And so they presented a schedule to say, here's how we can meet the design schedule and then the construction schedule. And I think, if you're correct, it's really small here, but I think this is the barn, and I think this is the classroom building. But again, showing how they could get us to that December timeframe of being able to be in both buildings. And there was a cost that was presented as part of this. And then likewise, taking a look at, again, conventional classroom building, wood frame classroom building, but then utilizing a K building type for the barn building. And this is basically a building that's got effectively metal columns with metal trusses, and then using Z girts in between those trusses, and then sort of a combination of metal and wood frame. And so the combination there allows that building to go up faster. Also allows the cost to be slightly less than a pre-engineered metal building, which is all steel. And this was something we definitely want to kick the tires on. And I think, again, this is why I think our first strategy in moving forward with this project would be to ask Hummel to give us some suggestions of where we can travel and take a look at these, so that we can take a look at the K building type and then take a look at the engineered metal building type. And again, Hummel presented what I thought was a compelling schedule, why this improves the schedule, which ultimately moves some of the dates up for the barn, kept the classroom building effectively the same from the same schedule standpoint, because it's still wood frame. And then lastly was the idea, again, wood frame classroom building and then doing a pre-engineered metal building for the barn. And I think most of us have seen what these pre-engineered metal buildings look like, but this is obviously the most expensive of the three options. And also probably more than likely the one that will take the most time, right? Because it ultimately is going to take more time to get that steel. So that will sort of reflect it again in the schedule. And so ultimately the barn pushed out, the classroom building stayed on the same trajectory. So with that, the next steps, again, tonight we're presenting that Hummel made the most compelling argument. We basically went through and vetted them, went through their proposal, went through all the shortlisted contract proposals. And Hummel not only was best of the best value selection, but we also felt like they really got the spirit of going through this design build process and the proposal process the best. They really presented you with multiple options and really felt like came with the best strategies moving forward, giving you the best options and things that you can really think about in moving forward in design. With the board's approval tonight, we would then move forward with issuing a notice to proceed, which would then request the documentation that we would need in order to enter into a contract, design build contract with them. So we would be bringing that design build contract to you probably in your next board meeting and everything. And then asking them with the notice to proceed to go ahead and start the design services and start, again, looking at getting us out to some different barn types that we can go out and take a look at and take the team to. So that would be next up. The next other couple of things that we'll be doing, we're still in the process of getting geotechnical out. We're going to go ahead and do the Agate facility geotechnical borings. And then we're also going to come over here and do the bus garage, full transportation facility. Just going to do them at the same time. It's cheaper to get those guys mobilized once. So they'll go out and do a series of borings at both sites. We've had both of them surveyed. So at this point, other than that water line that's running through the Agate facility, which I think is still flagged, we should have good information on utilities out there. So we should be able to proceed forward. And as part of that, I am asking them to do some borings in the areas where we may potentially do future structures. So on the other side of the electrical line, that site plan we saw, we're going to go ahead and just do a few sample borings out there so that the facilities have it's out there. So that's what I have for you,
John.
Yes, sir.
On that, and it's more for Marty, I guess. What like square footage was Steve looking at when he designed, since he didn't provide similar to it, I'm sure it was.
Yeah.
But
so what we asked each of the contractors to do is basically do an apples to apples comparison. So we gave them a program and a list of criteria for the classroom building separate of the barn. And so they were all effectively putting the proposals on exactly the same square footage. Give or take, I think one of the design builders felt like we needed a little more square footage in the classroom building. Yeah, so they were all apples to apples. Kevin, Dan, how did you guys feel like the process went?
I think it went excellent because I didn't realize how that process would. Sure, well, I've seen it. And if you start scoring those companies, how they start separating themselves out with the designs or their money or their time. I guess I thought it was great. Oh, you're right. I mean, often things are thought very and it's.
Do you find it necessary for us to have a special meeting for the design build contract rather than wait till mid-June, or is there any benefits into that?
let me get together with Marty and talk about that after we get through the notice to proceed. It's going to take us a little bit of time to put the contract together.
Yeah, I wasn't sure.
Yeah. And if Marty's comfortable moving forward with the notice to proceed, technically it's always, it always leads out before a contract. But if he's comfortable moving forward, I think, the biggest issue is, in order to make this schedule really work, we've got about 2 months of design. Right? That's not much time. Right. And the nice thing is that I feel like we've got a pretty good criteria doc to start with. We've worked pretty hard as a team to get down into the weeds and the details of exactly what we want in each of those facilities. But now it's, up to Marty and Grant Secretary Carroll to really start putting together floor plans and bringing those to you and saying, okay, here's what you told us you want. Now let's review it in detail and figure out, how to make it work and make it sense. And I think, in conjunction with that, like I've said before, I think it's important that right away, we ask Marty and his team to get you some examples of buildings you can go out and see. So you can kick the tires on that K building versus the pre-engineered metal building, and they can bring pricing back to you and say, here's the big difference. And the time. The time is the other thing. It's not just pricing, it's good. And we were up front with the teams and basically let each one of them know that quality is the first priority, the classroom building is the second priority. So if that comes to pass that you can get moving, there's definitely more that's good.
The square footage was 160 by 60 minimum on the barn and a minimum of 3,500 square feet. We did have one design up to 4,000 square feet on the classroom facility. I agree, Josh. I can tell you we've been involved in several design builds. This process, I think you would agree. Now, I will tell you there's a noticeable difference. We don't have such a tight window to start and complete a project in a building where kids have to go to school. And that really allows us to participate in the process as it should be. It's been great. So appreciate your leadership, Josh, very much. Marty, you on there?
I am, sir.
Well, assuming you don't do anything to upset the apple cart, you'll be voted on later. Do you have any famous last words?
Well, we appreciate the opportunity. We're excited about the project. Very impressed by the school district, where you guys are now and where you're headed. And we want to be part of your team.
Well, we're excited about it, and I would echo what everyone said. I thought your presentation was fantastic. We love the options. We love the expedited timeline on the barn, and our guys are ready to go wherever you need to take them as soon as you need to take them.
Yeah, I'll try to get some sites set up and some times and get back with you on that. I will let you know that I am meeting with the design team on Thursday, the 20th this week. So we're going to jump on the design right away.
Oh, awesome. Marty, what year did you graduate here?
89.
Awesome. Well, welcome back. We look forward to working with you.
I look forward to working with you guys.
Anybody else got anything?
Anything for Marty while we have him on the phone? Thanks, Marty. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Yep.
Thank you, Marty. Have a good evening.
Yeah, you too.
Josh, thank you.
Josh, fantastic. Truly fantastic leadership. Thank you for everything. Safe travels back.
Appreciate it. Somebody want to shoot me a text message after you guys have voted, I'll send a notice to proceed out tomorrow.
I got you.
Okay.
Just let me know when I'd like to go look at them.
Sure.
Especially the tech building.
Oh, we'll absolutely. Yep. And actually, while you're still here, I sent an email to the board members today. We have a couple dates set up for bus garage and maintenance facility projects going to Gallia County first. I believe the date was the 21st. So welcome to go, whoever's ready. This project's already in the barn. We're talking bus garage now. Already in the barn, no pun intended. All right. Thank you, brother. Appreciate it.
It'd be great if we could coordinate some trips. Bus garage and.
Yeah. We'll try. I'm hoping, quite frankly, that we make the visits for the farm well before the 21st of June.
Well, yeah, I know.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. So next up is pretty exciting. I won't steal Marcy's thunder, but Marcy Murphy, Zoe, thanks for being here. One of the things that I think we focus a lot on is trying to support student leadership, and Zoe stepped up in a big way. So I'll let Marcy take it from here. Thank you, Zoe.
I'm going to present our young presenter tonight using the words of our media director. Zoe Morris recognized the problem, addressed the problem, and solved the problem. What started out as a classroom assignment with Shenandoah High School sophomore will no doubt have an impact throughout the Noble Local School District for years to come. As a student, Mrs. Stacy Davis come to class, Zoe was given the task of addressing a problem and offering a solution. Zoe presented the problem of student vaping. Hurry up. You should help her. Please see your presentation slide.
The problem that I decided to solve was to make it knowledge and it started when I had time to solve when I started trying to find a problem to solve here, I couldn't find anything because we already had solved it with all the construction. So a couple of weeks went by. And so I started giving up and I was scrolling through TikTok. As I was scrolling, I came across a video of a 16-year-old boy in the United States fighting for his life. He was begging and trying to get other teenagers' attention to stop vaping because he didn't want anyone else to know that he was. At first, I was very alarmed because I knew many students in our school district who were younger and older than me that also used this product. So I started doing research and I discovered currently not only a coronavirus pandemic, but also a vaping amongst teenagers and women. I continued doing more research and I found it was causing hospitalizations, partition buildup, permanent damage of the a single cause possibly. There were so many uncertainties with I decided that my project needed to not only be concerned about getting gluten-free, but also human conflict. I began doing research on my issue in terms of technology to be able to detect these products being used in our school district so we could work more effectively in keeping them and keeping our students safe, which is what I believe. To find a main facility that
I'll just think about the K-12 prevention grant. We had the High Department of Education and the Department of Mental Health and Addiction Services. So we had already started a debate prevention wellness plan for grades 3, 6, and 9. So Zoe was asking aligned perfectly with that. In addition to that, we've been working with Leader Bank throughout the district, and we're really trying to encourage student-led ownership and leadership. And so super excited to be able to work with her to help with this, to provide the solution, right? So we use grant money in the amount of $11,500, which is we changed some pathways. I contacted the department and said, the student wants to do this. They allowed us to alter our budget plan and provide us with 9 tables. And Zoe had researched a few different types of products, vaping machines, and we felt the Velo was best. We worked with our tech, we worked with our tech coordinator to make sure we had the best that we could have with regards to our watchdog camera system. And so these vape detectors aligned, we were able to purchase 9. 5 at the high school and 4 at the elementary. Zoe worked with me and she helped me decide what would be the best locations. We talked to the principals and just decided we didn't have enough for all the locations, so what would be the best location. So here in the high school, we put them in the boys and girls restroom, and we also put them in the locker rooms, 2 in the boys, 1 in the girl. And then the elementary, we put them in the restrooms and loops. So down by the shopping room in the school there, and also by the elevators and this is Parker's area of the school. In doing so, the principals are receiving alerts, so they're here, and I'd like them just to take a minute to share what they're seeing and they found
Can you
themselves.
explain, like, what is it?
Oh, let me, sorry about that.
Sorry.
That would be good, right? So I did bring this handy
Like,
dandy.
what is it, though? Like, what do the machines do?
Thanks for doing that. We totally skipped over that part, didn't we? So I printed this out just so you would see all the different things. Because I thought, when we first got this, I thought, okay, it's for vaping, it's for the THC oil, and then we found out sound anomalies like movie, right? So there's sounds. But when we actually got the devices here, we started researching a little bit more. So they sense audio analytics, like spoken keywords with alerts, abnormal noise level detections, gunshot detections, shouting, excessive banging and bullying, air quality, vape THC, smoke particles, air quality index levels, volatile organic compounds. There's more. Chemical ammonia, this is interesting. Chemical ammonia comes up, and the janitor in one of the restrooms cleaning. Have you learned?
At 6:44 tonight.
Again, and Mr. Reaper was in the administration building today, and he was sharing that had happened, so it was kind of comical. Carbon monoxide, carbon dioxide, nitrogen, and then also environmental control, so temperature, humidity, tamper pressure, and light. So I know a bit of things that these sensors prevent, right, or alter. So do you want to share anything, number of cases so far since they were installed? And they were just installed, they were late, if I should add, installation was late just due to supply and demand with everything happening. And we had a little construction food hog here, so we had to wait a couple weeks to make sure we could put them in without having them destroyed for the construction process.
So, kind of to your point, so I know it does all this stuff. I'm wondering truly, like, okay, what's this going to sound like? What's it going to do? Am I going to have a fire truck show up with it, or what's going to happen? And the answer is none of that. It actually, you sign up through Philip and you give them my cell number and my carrier with different people throughout the building that have that. So we get a text and an email alert that happens. So the person in the bathroom has no idea that people are now coming. So that's how I end up knowing that this is happening. And it has never been wrong yet. And it's happened in both bathrooms. And I would be interested to ask Zoe then on the other side of the world that I don't get to hear. How much are you hearing, like, oh my Lord, that these things work? Are you hearing that?
Yeah. The biggest thing that happened when it started was only a few people actually knew that I had started it because they were, so I had a couple people come to me asking where they were at.
Yeah, so it is a true problem. It really is. And on my end of the world, these things, some of them look like zip drives, some of them look like pencils. I mean, I could have one in my pocket and you might not even know that that's what it is. And the other piece for me that's a problem, I don't necessarily know that this one's tobacco, this one's THC.
So let's not soften it. So we actually said that today, any vape collected will be treated as such as THC. We're not going to put the county through a burden of testing. Every vape that's confiscated will be treated just as it's THC. It doesn't matter what it tests because our policy also addresses lookalike drugs. So you have a vape, it's assumed to be THC, and you're getting said punishment. So put that out to whomever cares to listen.
So it's funny, Justin and I think we got our first alert within about 20 minutes of each other. The first day they were active, pulled 3 boys into the bathroom. It was pulled 3 boys in, and it's like, hey, did you guys know we put some vape sensors up? And their eyes got about this big, and they, they wanted to deny it. So I was able to show them, I said, well, here's my order. You 3 are in the bathroom. And I also found out that drug testing is called $8 if you want to have a kid drug test. Called mom because he denied it. I said, luckily he was negative, though, so he was being honest with me, but his 2 buddies wouldn't say that he wasn't doing anything, so I didn't believe him. But in the noise, it's funny. I had an 8th grader that we got a thing that said cameras. I'm like, okay, what happened? Well, he went in, he kicked the trash can. And I said, well, and he's a pretty trustworthy kid. I was like, what's going on in here? I got this in your tamper. He goes, I didn't do it. He says, I'm on the ICU list. I was mad. I went in, I kicked the trash can. So they, you know, we keep telling them, tell all your friends they're everywhere. And, they will be before we get into school next year in a unique way, I think. So I think.
Are they real expensive?
I think
So if you look at her cost proposal, traditionally they were gonna cost us about 11,000 for 6 of them. So I talked to Ed and they ended up helping me with the best deal, and they were able to get us 9 for 11. So it was very generous. And I heard that they were kind to reciprocate and help students, and they were super excited that Zoe let this work and that she wanted to make a difference as a student in the school. So it was mainly because of Zoe that they gave us that deal. We wanted to go one step farther too, and Zoe was adamant we could go along the lines of prevention, right? Letting people know what is vaping. So we were able to get stickers that say, you know, it's no longer just no smoking, it's no smoking, no vaping. So this stickers that we throughout the district. And she went through, and I went for her to pick the poster, right? She's the one that associates the students in the district, not me. So we went through and found the ones that we thought would be the representative of students today and what they would listen to and pay attention to. So super excited about it. We were waiting to put these up until fall. We don't want the janitors to take them down and put them back up, and we're going to laminate it. That. So we're super, super excited. I'm so grateful to Zoe and just thank her so much for her passion. We realize that, you know, it's going to be hard to police all locations in the district. And as soon as they know the locations, we've talked about how they're just going to go somewhere else. But at least we're sending the message that we want our students to be healthy, we want them to make good choices, and we're going to force them to go to a less convenient place to do it, right? Is there anything else you want to add? Okay, thank you. Thank you so much for your hard work.
Zoe was one of our good character winners for the 49 weeks, obviously. That had a big thing to do with that. So that's pretty cool. And then one last one. During graduation, I didn't know it went off. Graduation. So Emma, she went, and she went. Let's just say Emma went. She found some dude in the guy's bathroom. I don't think she went in after him. I will have to watch that back. But anyway, that guy came out and she spoke to, I mean, he had to be like, oh. So I guess everybody knows.
Hey, Zoe, thank you so much. So appreciative. Great job.
And Zoe's second goal is us to get. So we're working on that too. So
Great
we'll
job.
see what we can do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for sharing. Yes.
So starting off our building reports, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Miller, who also wants to introduce you to a couple people that are going to appear on the agenda later this evening for employment. Mr. Miller?
Awesome. Well, you know what? It's funny. I was sitting here thinking about this. I've only got to hire. I've been in my 2 previous districts. We went through a cycle of 5-year forecasts that would bottom out, go through a reduction in force. Then over the next couple of years, I get to rehire some people that lost their positions. They get to come back. So I'm thinking I think this is 15 years as a principal. I've probably hired 5 people, new people to new jobs before tonight. So, I want to introduce Chance Gooley. Chance, it's funny, Ashley and Ashley Hayes Both of them, Chance is going to be our 5th and 6th grade ELA. 5th and 6th grade, I'm getting back. I'm nervous, I guess. I don't know. It's big stuff. So Chance is going to be our 8th grade ELA teacher. And I'll tell you, I think as you guys get to know him, as you get to know her, as your kids get to know her, it'll be a good fit. Ashley, Summerfield now, right? Summerfield address lives out by the lake. Obviously, you guys know all these people. I didn't know it before. So I've heard stories from Jude, but I've sworn to secrecy. And actually just interviewed Ashley last night, and it worked out perfect. Ashley's been in our building a lot, subbing this year. Chance just graduated, April 29th, is that right? April 29th. Both of them, they had classes together. So I think bringing them on, they've already got a relationship that's going to be good for them. I think, Mr. Milliken can concur with this. They're going to be a great addition to our building. So.
Now, Mr. Miller, Ashley needs to, since it's, celebrating my career here tonight, she needs to say that I predicted that we would be here this evening.
That is true. Yes, this was foretold.
At the career fair, I said, oh, sorry, we had somebody, but you know what? Sometimes things work out.
And I will tell you this, so Chance and Ashley just, Chance, we emailed with some other candidates. She was unanimous with our interview committee. Actually, it was just Mr. Milliken and I, but I want to say both of these guys. That didn't sound right. But I'm trained to give this screener. Screener's 51 questions. You cut it off after 24 if they get less than 10. You're looking for these certain themes. You're looking for their responses. Are they, in it for the right reasons? Their belief systems, really. And both of them were, I didn't go past 24 because it was just every question was positive. And then so we interviewed, so I screened them both at the job fair. Chance had reached out to me, went to the job fair. I actually had time in her schedule. I said, listen, right now I don't have a science position for you, but how about I interview you anyway? It'd be a good experience for you. And this worked out. I'm so appreciative to have both of you. It's going to be good fishing. So welcome to Nova Local. And I guess you guys want to introduce yourself, tell me anything, or
oh yeah,
oh yeah. But both of them OU grads, Zanesville and OUE. So excited to have them.
Hey, can we get a picture of the two of you together right here in front? We'll go in front of the big screen.
Ashley's been very involved.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
In the middle.
Yeah.
My.
I was going to say.
That's not so
I've
good,
seen
is it?
some of
That's
your
not
faces.
good.
I was going to say, I'd like the lighting.
No, it's.
How about in front of the
Yeah, let's go over there.
The TV.
Yeah.
Okay. Sure, you tell me I'm not.
This is a storage room, ready for inspection.
I'm going to say, you just want me to.
behind the chairs.
There we go.
1, 2, 1, 2, 3. Excellent.
Yeah, practically neighbors.
Can't go wrong, Mr. Miller, they bring their own fan club.
If you don't know where it's at already,
Yeah.
you'll run into the end of the road before you get to it.
Oh, yeah.
But you know.
So in Chance, being a local grad, I believe. Local grad, lives in Belmont. She did come the back way through. I said, hey, you got to try it once.
Yes, yeah. I was like, I don't know what's happening. It was very scenic. That's a good word to describe. Yeah.
Yeah, so So anyway, glad to have them. We're going to be working, I got some things in my slide presentation to talk about, some things we'll be doing within this summer already, and hit the ground running. So if you can just hit, I don't have a clicker or anything, but I always know when I try and cast, I take 10 minutes for a board meeting. So updates for 2021 and 21-22. I actually already have, our new teachers.
Davis, we hit the light.
Awards and crossing the creek. I know Ed already asked me about where you be, so where do I need to be, so I'll tell you. Our literacy plan update and our parent advisory team. So go ahead, and I'm going to make this quick because I knew there was a bunch. I missed it.
How do we go back?
I don't know, it's your computer.
It's your slideshow.
Hit there. So we did our middle school awards program last night. This is something that I think will stay from COVID. The way we did our awards in general. And I don't have any of our K4 we did by grade level. It took us all day, but it was only 25 minutes for each grade level, as compared if I've got a third grader and we start with kindergarten and you go through, you sit in there for 3 hours, you're crowded. So that was fantastic. So we'll probably keep doing that. We had 103 kids last night that were present. So these are our fifth graders. So I threw some pictures up here instead of, so you can see there's a few fifth graders here. Go ahead. Thanks, Trenda. There's our sixth grade crew. Seventh grade, that's a great picture. I think I got a better one of there. I must have. So lots of seventh graders. I will say fifth grade's the smallest, but it's also our smallest class in the building. Eighth grade, there's our eighth graders. And I will say this, out of our eighth grade, when I was looking at some of the kids, Spanish took its toll on some of our kids. Tried that high school English or high school Spanish and things like that, but to get through what we've got through this year, I think that's pretty good because that's a lot of our kids. In our last picture here, sportsmanship. This is through the Ohio High School Athletic Association. 4 great kids. It's funny because I don't think. No, I didn't know he was getting that. He was like, what, me? But
so excited.
Those 4 guys and girls they're good kids and well represented over local very well. So that was our awards banquet. Crossing the creek. We wanted to do something different. We are on the other side of the creek rather than do just a promotion and all that. We want to make it kind of ceremonial of crossing the bridge. So tomorrow we're going to recognize all of our 8th graders being promoted. They're going to stage over in our parking lot. We'll call their names. They'll cross the bridge, walk down in front of the stadium, and they'll get their promotion certificate, go up. They're going to sit in the front row. And then we'll call down, we'll recognize our presidential award winners, because I'm envious when he said, man, high school graduation, 58 minutes. My first 5th grade promotion was 2.5 hours. And my superintendent left halfway through, and I was in his office the next morning, and Chrissy knows who I work for. And it was like, I've never seen a college go that long. So 58 minutes, I bet we can do it in 30. So they'll get their diploma, we'll recognize them, but then what we're going to do is, and we rehearse this, they're going to walk up, we'll release them. Ask your kids where they're going to be if you want a picture of them coming up, because depending on where they sit, and they should know because we rehearsed, they'll walk up an aisle out of the stadium. We're going to meet in the high school gym if we can get some bleachers out, and they're going to take their first class photo in the gym. So anyway, so excited about that. So that's crossing the creek, and hopefully we get nice weather every year. We can continue to do that. So next slide. So I just want to give a little bit of a literacy plan update. We talked about it a lot. You know, we've got lots of bells and whistles. STEM is very, very important to us. But we've got a K-4 literacy plan that we continue to develop. Met with Brad Lanier last week, and we did some tweaks, put some measurable goals in, just tighten some things up, outline some programming. Haggerty is a phonemic awareness, and that's where you're playing with sounds before you actually try and match that sound to a letter. And so we want to spread that up through even the first month of second grade. You want to hit those kids, make sure they know they can play with sounds. If they can't play with sounds, they are so far behind when you try and make them down match letters. So Haggerty is a scripted program. That's something we want to do. Just as an example, students have been benchmarked. I talked to you about how we're benchmarking our kids. That's going to allow us to hit the ground running in August. We've got our benchmark levels. Those folders are going on to the next school year. We're using them to build back class list. But we'll be able to start intervention immediately for our kids or enrichment. And next year, it's focusing on focus of the upcoming school year's guided reading. We'll have ongoing PD with how to teach in small groups, guided reading. There's a book I shared with Marcy. She'd asked, hey, what books you want? There's a book that I'd love to have for our staff that we use throughout the year. And I wish the folks that were talking about ABA, I mean, it's really, when you think about intervention, regardless of what it is, guided readings is the key for us. Move all of our
When you start
kids.
benchmarking,
Say that again.
what grade do you start benchmarking?
We started in kindergarten. So, because here's the thing too, and this is the thing Brad and I talked about. We have kids coming in higher than anybody, but everybody catches this by third grade. What we need to do is condense that in the beginning of kindergarten with those kids that are ready for it, and they need to take their curriculum they usually do in January. They need to hit the ground running with those kids that are ready. You know, if they're coming in, they know their letters, they know their sounds, they've got some decent number sense. Let's hit them now. So because that's the only way we're going to see the growth we need. We can't keep, well, it's January 15th, a new letter Q this week, and you've got all your kids that know. Okay, so one more slide here. Leader and me today, we have a retreat. We're going to be out at the boathouse at the lake. I don't even know where it's at. I just know we've got it reserved. So we're going to during that time, we want to try and identify our student lighthouse day, lighthouse team. Our first 10 days of Leader and Me, where we implement and really roll it out. And I'll tell you, it's thinking about next year what we want to do. And Dan and I, Chrissy did something like this in her previous district. We get done with testing and everything just shuts down, okay? We want to go ahead and have put myself under the gun here, but Dave, you're in charge of scheduling next year, so never mind.
Got it, we got it, roll it out.
We want to, after testing, take those last 10 days of school, go ahead and graduate to the next grade level, get to know our kids, and they'll get a heavy dose of Leader and Me, set up their classroom expectations. I just think it'd be awesome. Adult learning plan too, we're going to talk about that. We have new hires, and we have some that missed our 7 Habits training last year. So I want to get them trained and really just do that with these guys. And I think I've got 3 teachers that didn't attend the training last year. I'll work with you guys on that. And then really just embedding our leadership into our daily practices. What Zoe did, we've already talked about and talked about with our parent advisory. Go ahead and drop to the next slide. I'm excited about this. Parent advisory team, I've been putting out that weekly newsletter now, and I put out a call, hey, I want some volunteers, bi-monthly meetings. And so we have 23 members, 23 parents from preschool to 7th, 8th grade that are on our parent advisory. It sounds like a lot, but when you think about our work and what we want to do, we're trying to come up with a date this summer for a crash course on 7 Habits of Leader and Me, so they're familiar with it. We're going to meet bi-monthly. August 2nd is our next meeting. We've divided into 3 teams, which is really, if you think about our district, STEM, which is all of our career path, the majority of our career pathways that we follow. So it's really interesting. I've got parents who are engineers, they're in the medical field, and they've jumped on the STEM. I've got social workers and everybody that has jumped in wanting to be in Leader of Me, and then I have a mix that want to do both one of those, and then a lot of them want to be in literacy, and about how we promote literacy. So back to that, go back to that last slide, I'm sorry, and then I'll be about that. So embedding leadership in our daily practices. One of the first things that came out from our parent team, one of the first questions that was asked, are you going to do your service day again? I want to take what Zoe's doing and embed that's a PBL all over itself with the simple question, how do we make our community a better place? Then you have kids in Chance's class writing proposals about here's why I want to do this. You have people in the 5th and 6th grade science and in the science classes researching the impact of whether it's water quality or whatever they want to do. But then that is a culminating activity where that could be their project day on a service day. Now our kids, so if I'm passionate about, I don't know, I like to help old people. I don't know. So I want to go volunteer in the retirement homes or something, but then I want to recruit a team and we're going to go do something for the retirement community. Or like Cole, a 5th grader, he's mowing 13 yards now for veterans. He got from that day, if you haven't seen that, he got $11,000 in donations from service day. And he's bought all new equipment, 0-turn mower, speed eaters, and he's got a little army of volunteers. Kale goes to help him some, and they do, but he does 13 yards for free, doesn't charge him anything. And so that's what I want to empower in our kids, because like Zoe, I wish she was still here, because I'm sorry, Comp 2 doesn't sound like a lot of fun. No offense, sorry, Chance. But when you start letting me follow my passion, that's what PBL and that's what STEM's about. So, again, this year's been challenging. Not where we want to be with Leader of Me. That Student Lighthouse team is going to be a big component of that. We've got to recruit our middle school kids to take ownership of this, and having them teach the rest of our kids, and then that's going to get the buy-in for middle school. K3, they're just eating it up. They eat it up, but it's a little harder sell for middle schoolers. And we got to do a better job as adults living it ourselves. So that's my update.
Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you.
Well, Justin.
I start with kind of the heads up on the Did You Know page that I sent to Jeff, so you'll know what's in the upcoming magazine. All of our 9th grade students took Strength Finders 2.0, and their 5 greatest areas of strength identified. I think that's important for how we can work with groups of kids and how we put them together. It's important that kids know what their strengths are. There are a lot of kids that feel like they have strengths. They have found out that they do. We kind of want to do something with their locker and badging system to identify their strengths, so that's over time, as 9th graders keep cycling through, we'll have everybody having participated in Strength Finders. So we're kind of going to see that, and then the badging system. Virtually every student, I should have asked Zoe before she left, at the high school has their schedule built in place before they left for that. So they should have, and then Beth has been been working hard and doing a lot of individual things.
We're talking, we'll sign that.
Yeah, so I mean, we're really close to everything on that schedule, which is really, really good. Construction phase 4, is underway. And all these different spaces are going well, and then finished. Summer school will run June 1 to 4, 7 to 10, 8 days, 9 to 2 daily. Attendance issues.
for an office.
I think it's a neat fact that the class of 66 will be on campus on June 5th. They wanted to be in this building, but I just didn't do much stuff starting over there. So they're going to be at the grade school, talking about Green Acres. This was school. I've said it in graduation. SHS students earned 1,124 college credits this school semester. It's crazy. So when you couple that with books and what it would cost a 19, 20-year-old kid to go to Zane State and take a class or Washington or whatever, that's over 200,000 in savings right there. That's just an astronomical number. More kids are qualifying. They were just here last week. They qualified more kids to take college credit plus classes. 8 staff members will earn their Lean Six Sigma Green Belt and will be ready for training the trainers. So train the students in Lean Six Sigma. Coming soon, all 10th graders took the free ACT, which is open goal to make our ACT scores better. That's how we get some scholarship money, right? Fall of 21, we kick off our medical pathway. We got about 6 kids in that. So it's a nice little jump off spot for Lauren, and she's really excited about that.
Is there a limit on that?
I don't know that we have a limit. I think somewhere around 10 is kind of where we were thinking. But right now we're at 6, which is pretty good.
I just had open enrollment questions, kids interested in possibly bringing it, but was worried about.
Set up a time to take a walk with that.
Got it.
Truly. Graduated 84, 81 walks. 4 seniors earned associate's degrees while still in high school. 11 earned an honors diploma. And we gave out over $1 million in grants and scholarships, which we've never touched that. That sounds amazing. So $1 million. Ed just gave me my students of the grading period most growth. And are we going to the later one or can I read it now?
I think June, Danielle told me.
I'll save it. Save it. I've got some camp dates on the back. Dr. Johnny, we're going to do kind of a combine on June 11th. Camp on 3 through 8 on the 16th of June. High school football camp July 19th through 24. Also 29 and 30. So he's kind of using these days right there. He's also having a golf scramble at the country club on July 10th.
Do we know that that coincides with the VFW, Cobble VFW? They had it annually. So just, I had a community member tell me today, just in case, I didn't know if that date was set.
He's got it set. What, talking about the golf?
Oh, yeah, I'm just talking about with the golf scramble, there might be a conflict of teams going one versus the other. Then there was a few veterans that were bummed that we took the same date. I told them it happens.
I didn't even know that.
Yeah.
Volleyball camp, July 21 and 22 here. And the cheerleaders are headed to Mount Union.
Yeah, the 18th.
How to get that's good. Yeah. So one of those things, I'll share and save that, and then jump back over.
You said that the 40th graduated says, yeah. That's just
crazy. Right.
Texted Jesse.
Yep, it's absolutely crazy. I truly, I sit here as one of those 84 people, not one of those alone. I can't wait to take his transcript automatic to see how he's not having an associate's degree, but he did take the Teach Academy here, we have teachers, and we got 12 semesters. We got 18 semester hours in education classes.
That is.
It's just gonna be neat to see how that translates.
Tell you what he's gonna have kids 2 years ago.
The summer office hours, here's the high school, 7 to 3.
Staying at home, he's gonna remodel his class.
Working out of the back hall.
In that.
In case you
Better
need
than
something,
paying 13 a
you
year
have
up
to go
here.
park back in the back door. Jill, we're all gonna like be stashed out in Nellie and Lisa's room because ours is will be. So if you're looking for me, that's where we'll be. ads. We will be putting that in the journal. To go along with what Zoe said, I did have a meeting and set up another to talk with Chad, Dave, Dan, Jordan Croucher, how he can support our efforts with that, and also attendance as being an issue. So that was a positive thing. Good meeting with Jordan. Ocean Summer School was, I think. Construction, I'm really happy with what's been going on in the locker rooms. They're starting to go back already, and the school's technically not out there tomorrow, so I think 3D and Harvard's Plumbing has done a really good job in there. So you can take a walk later. And then, just a couple other shout out, also number things. I said 6 in the medical pathway. We can't get enough people in Randy's welding class. I mean, it's like 54. I mean, I don't know how to balance that, but that's a tough one right there. And then truly robotics continues to grow, thrive. And there's a drone and I mean, he's everywhere. He's there at the track meetings, he's there at graduation. So they're going to be able to get their pilot certification if they engage for it. And I nominated Jarvis and his crew of guys at the Legacy Award over to go to OSBA and have a win. Because I just think those kids
So think about what you just said. We develop new facilities that we've already outgrown.
Yeah.
It's awesome. It's a great problem to have. So there's a likelihood, I mean, if you think ahead, likelihood is when the farm complex is done, ag can move out of that shop, we can expand welding if the need is there.
Yes.
And I think it also ties in, and we're far from talking about it, but the need for a 7th and 8th grade edition here at the high school is real. I can give you 1,000 reasons why it's best educationally, but I can give you 2,000 for why it's best financially as well. So it's a way to pool resources and share lab space and not have to add staff and be able to, make that move. Chad's running out of space. I mean, wow, it's a great problem. It's a problem, nonetheless, but it's a great problem. Oh, we have a wait list for preschool.
How many's on the wait list?
We have a few because we have to hold some spots for some IEP students legally. So
Jeff, I am working, I'm not a big fan of retention, but we have some I have some kindergartners that haven't turned 6 yet that we are looking at for potential retention that could put us around 94 kindergartners. Do you think that'd be about +10 to any grade we have?
Just because, can I ask, what's the boy-girl ratio?
I have
It
looked.
has to be like 80-20.
Have girls and boys?
Terrible, boys to girls.
80 boys?
Yeah, there's a ton of boys. in
Prom dates be easy.
No.
Yeah. So hey, guys, thank you. Good.
8th grade at the high school. Really, the finish is hard. But it was really successful having it 3 years. Did not. But it was very good. So I want to throw that in.
Yeah, and it wasn't that, but it was when you looked at some of like the 3.5 and things. I mean, a couple of the kids that are outstanding students, and I talked to them at Christmas time. How's it all Spanish? Spanish. I'm like, listen, that's going to be one of the hardest classes you ever take, and you're taking it now, and everything else might be gravy for you from here on out if you can survive it. So.
Such is life.
Then last Jeff's introduction a second ago and said we'll be inducting the inaugural class of the Athletic Hall of Fame probably in the fall. And what we're thinking there's a football game.
Yeah, we got to narrow down to 3 days, one in the fall, one in basketball season, one in spring. We've already selected 4 charter class members, I've already written the bios, probably going to announce them publicly on June 7th, journal and on the social media. Once we select the date, that's the only thing we have already selected the class. Figuring out how many you're putting in. And you guys get put together, like, each and see one of those.
Everybody's moving. Great job, guys. Thank you. Marcy, thank you. Outstanding job, too.
Hey, Justin, could you give me a summary of all that stuff to put in the minutes, please? Thank you.
Like it in an email?
Yes.
Later?
All typed out, nice and neat.
Hey, listen,
I can't hear none of that.
everybody's welcome to stay, but you're also welcome to run like heck.
Welcome.
Thank you. I'm going with that.
Oh, not a problem, man. Yeah. Hate those structured buildings, the structural design, and all metal buildings. That one is probably, you remember him? He went in here. I think he sells them down in Beverly.
That's Wolf Creek. He was one of the bidders.
Oh, okay. Didn't know that.
He just wasn't the top one.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
You doing good? I do. I know.
I'm wondering if we should move this up there.
Yeah, reconfigure the room.
You right?
I agree.
I can't hear shit. Oh, I didn't hear one word Justin said. I only heard about that.
And Zoe was so soft-spoken.
I didn't hear her.
I see her lips moving, but I can't.
Yeah.
Oh, you couldn't hear?
We could hear. I didn't hear one word
This
Justin said.
dumb thing's so loud, you can't hear anything.
We're gonna redesign for the next week.
Yeah, we need, it's.
We're gonna put this up there.
Geez. Yeah, that makes sense.
Hey, there's nobody on. I'm gonna have that shut down.
Motion sequence 10 mile beach.
Summerfield, you don't mess with?
Anybody else?
Summer hood.
Oh, Summer Hood.
I got it.
Watch out, Ned. Don't put a rubber smoking in your
That is hilarious.
Damn.